In this video I want to talk about sewing clips. Do you use them? Sewing clips are a recent invention and many sewers now prefer them over pins. Are they better than traditional pins? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Olga from hbari.com. Welcome to my channel all about sewing, embroidery and quilting. What are these clips? They are colorful plastic clamps. They are made up of three pieces: a lower plastic flat piece, an upper plastic curved piece, and the metal tension spring. They are designed to easily open and close, and they securely hold pieces of fabric together in place as you work with it. The first brand of sewing clips was Klaue Wonder Clips, and because of this, people often call sewing clips Wonder Clips, no matter what brand they are referring to. These little clips have some useful features that make them quite handy in the sewing room. A flat base to keep your project flat on a sewing machine and for easy feeding the fabric to the presser foot. Variety of bright colors so you don't lose them in your project or on the floor. Different sizes so you can use the right size for the project you are working on. They are great for holding multiple layers of fabric together and working with all kinds of fabric. I prefer them over pins when working with silk, vinyl, leather and other fabric where I don't want to see holes from pins. I use them all the time for quilt binding and many other projects. Let's look at some examples so you can see how they work in practice. Here is my Bargello quilt. I used sewing clips to hold binding in place. Now I'm using sewing clips to attach binding for my quilted Christmas table runner. Now I use sewing clips to bind a fabric circle. And this is the finished project you might be interested in. Here I'm making a makeup bag and sewing over a piece of clear vinyl. I use sewing clips to hold it in place. This is the finished makeup bag. So, are sewing clips better than pins? I don't see one as being better than the other. Instead, I think they are just helpful for different things. You will certainly find some overlap because there are definitely many items you can use either for. But you might find yourself preferring one over the other after learning all the facts. Let's see some of the advantages that sewing clips have over pins. They are easier to use. Clips are easier to insert and remove than pins, and they don't bend like pins do sometimes. I have lots of bent pins. Clips are bigger and their larger size also makes them easier to see and work with, especially if you have longer nails. I like the variety of colors and sizes. I can find exactly what I need, so I have the right tool for the job every time. They are safer than pins. You don't have to worry about getting poked with pins. Also, fewer clips needed for a project. Each clip covers more length than a single pin, so you can use fewer clips over the entire project. They are less likely to get lost The bulkier size and bright colors make finding clips easier in your project. If you drop one on the floor, you can easily see it and no one accidentally steps on it and gets poked. They are certainly great for large variety of fabrics. I always use them for leather projects. Clips work better on slippery material, bulky fabric, and fabrics where you don't want to risk making holes like vinyl and leather. They are stronger. Pins can slip easier when you move fabric. Clips don't slip, and they can hold multiple layers of fabric without any problems. They make sewing knits easier. Knits often have edges that roll, but clips can flatten out those edges to make sewing them much easier. Like this. But nothing is perfect, and that's also true with sewing clips. They can leave marks on fabric. Clips won't make holes in fabric, but they can sometimes leave indentations. But it's not a big deal. These indentations are almost invisible and disappear in a few minutes anyway. Also, you cannot leave them in the fabric overnight. Make the seams right away after you use them. Their larger size is better for visibility and working with thick fabrics. However, the downsides are that they are bulky and make your project heavier. They also require more storage area. Some people have trouble with the plastic pieces of their clips breaking, or clips lose their tension and don't hold fabric anymore. I have personally never had that problem, but I have definitely had pins bend and rust. You cannot sew over them or iron over them. Because they are plastic and bulky, you cannot sew right over clips or iron them without damaging your iron, fabric, or your sewing machine. The area where you can use them is limited. Sewing clips are designed for use along hems and fabric edges. You cannot place them in the center of your project like you can with pins. When you are working with lightweight and delicate fabrics, clips can add unwanted weight and make maneuvering fabric difficult. Also, sewing clips aren't expensive. They cost more compared to sewing pins. I continue to use pins in many of my projects. Pins still have their place because they are time-tested and can do some things that sewing clips don't do as well. However, clips are versatile and don't have some of the problems that pins have, such as poking you or getting lost on the floor if you drop them. It's good to have both pins and sewing clips in your sewing supply box. I use the clips for projects that use thick fabric, multiple layers, or fabric that's slippery or will show holes. However, I still prefer using pins when aligning darts, basting the center of a project, or working with elastic, for example. And in this image you can see me using pins in the center of the project where sewing clips cannot be used at all. Here I am making a flatter sleeve for my summer dress and I needed pins for holding pleats. Where to buy sewing clips? You will need to look for them at your local fabric store or online. You can find sewing clips anywhere you can purchase sewing pins. Check Joann Fabrics, Amazon. There are plenty of places where you will be able to get them. I recommend looking for a reputable brand that makes durable, strong clips that hold fabric tightly. Klawe Wonder Clips is the brand name when it comes to sewing clips. Wonder Clips from Klawe come in 3 different sizes, including mini, standard, and jumbo, so that you have the right size for your project every time. The Klawe Wonder clips I bought did come with a handy wrist cushion, which I found very useful, similar to a wrist cushion for pins. Next, Mom Craft multi-purpose sewing clips. I bought both Klawe and these Mom Craft clips and carefully inspected them for differences. They are practically identical, as you can see, but the Mom Craft clips were much cheaper. On the Klawe Wonder pins it's written Japan. I didn't notice any difference in the ability to hold fabric. Mom Craft sewing clips come in a cute tin box and there are 100 of them. Tailor Seville sewing clips are also a popular choice, but they differ from the Wonder clips in a couple of important ways. The top piece isn't curved and they have an additional long metal piece with markings. The manufacturer says that we can sew over that metal piece. It means we don't need to take them off. So these ones are called Magic clips. I see that many people like them and leave good reviews on Amazon. But I was completely disappointed when I bought them. They are much bulkier to use. They are really hard to open and insert, especially if you have a few layers in a quilt. The measurements on the clip are completely useless. They say that you don't need to take them off when you sew, and the presser foot can go right over them. Well, it didn't go well. My sewing machine didn't like to go over metal, and the fabric was distorted when the presser foot was on the metal part of the clip. Now that you know all about sewing clips and pins, it's up to you which one you choose to use. Just keep in mind the benefits of each. The clips are a better fit for certain projects, while pins work well for others. Try out both and see which works better for you.